Hello, Logo 304. Welcome to another Business Manager Update. Been extremely busy here the last couple of weeks, so I'll just jump right into the most important thing I can tell you today is that we're not holding the local meeting tomorrow. The COVID numbers are just too great in the community and in some of the contracts we represent, and sure don't want Logo 304 to be contributing to any kind of spread. So we won't be holding our local meeting or our units for this month. So that means we really need to be paying attention to communication. I want to make sure that if any unit has anything that needs to be communicated to this office or any communications that you want out of this office, that you please contact us. Back in March and April when this virus crap first started, we were doing some Zoom meetings with both unit chairs and stewards, and I would certainly welcome that again. So you watching, if there's anything going on in your unit, get with your unit chair and have him get with this office, and we'll put something formal together. Other than that, please call your representative or the office so that we can make sure we're communicating. You know, it's always important to communicate, but especially in times when we're not having those meetings where we can communicate formally. That kind of leads me right into my next topic, is that we got some organizing events going on, and one of them is coming to a head. We've got a couple of card signs, out of Flint Hills, and so we've petitioned the board for that election, so we're just waiting on the formalities now of the company to post their position if they're going to fight us on it. Or we'll work to a stipulated election agreement and count the votes. But anytime you go through an organizing drive, it just really highlights the fact of how important it is to be a union member. I think that we as union members kind of get a little bit comfortable in the fact that we are a union member, and we forget that this is a fantastic tool. You know, talking to these guys and talking about promises that were made and not fulfilled. And the promise that we make is through our contracts. And those are fulfilled or they're grieved if they're not. And so again, just the basics of our labor management relationship is documented in that contract. So encourage your fellow members to be active union members, and those that you work around that are not union, encourage them to consider being union and actually having a voice in their wages and working conditions. And I think that we take it a lot for granted, so it really makes me think about it when we're going through these organizing drives. We talked a little bit about COVID in the beginning. Let me give you an update. We were averaging about 6 a week. I think I told you last week that we jumped up to 8. Now we've up around 12, and so far this week, just hearing from the one employer, we already have 6 this week. I am finally getting reports from more of our contracts. There's also a lot of quarantining going on out there. My concern is that overexposure to COVID. You know, when we, again, talking about early on when this virus started and the proactive means that we were doing, and I think everybody's tired of it. I'm fucking tired of it too. And so I know that, sorry about the F-bomb there. So that's how tired I am. Seriously, it's wearing on all of us. And on a serious note, that means that we can become a little lax. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the increased numbers, but I really implore you to make sure you're doing everything you can to be safe as we work through this. Whether you believe in it or not, the numbers are growing like nobody's business. When you look at the number of deaths, when they roll in a mobile morgue into Topeka now so that they can store the bodies until they can be planted or whatever happens to them. So very important that we do whatever we can to slow or stop the spread. Line clearance negotiations. So a couple of things on that. We struggled with getting communication from the members about this coming negotiations. We set up several meetings and got no RSVPs or not showing up to unit meetings, and so that leaves it on your committee to be performing the negotiation. So, one can assume then that means everybody's perfectly happy and there shouldn't be any changes to the agreement. Just increase the wages and benefits and keep on trucking. So please stay in touch with us as you get to be the voice in that. Ultimately, you're the ones that are going to vote to approve or not approve of the upcoming contract. And so without any expectation, you're making it a little difficult for your committee to hit targets. The second part I think goes along with that is the confusion about if you see coming out of your check that there's working dues, that's the assessments. That's what has to be paid in order for that employer to be administering the agreement, working under the agreement in a bargaining unit. Your dues would be your per capita to the IO. So if you're not seeing two sections on your check of dues, that means you're not a member. And we've talked many, many times about how important it is to be a member, because as these employers send you out of town, if you're not a member, then you may not be tracking your benefits back here. So I've implored you many, many times to stay in touch with us as they move you around, and yet I'm still seeing those dues come in that shows a reduction of members, which I know that means you guys are working out of town. So need to be paying attention to that. For the rest of you, we're still pushing arbitration cases. I know that, again, due to COVID, around the March, April, May timeframe, any arbitration cases were all being pushed off because everybody was locked down at that time, if you remember. So a lot of those got rescheduled to now. So now that we've got new arbitration cases, we're having trouble finding time on the calendar to get them in with the arbitrators. I've got a termination case that should be the number one case to get out there, and I'm still waiting to be able to strike the panel with the attorney because of a couple active cases we've got going on. We do have Local 304 will do our first virtual arbitration meeting next week. We're scheduled for the 15th and 16th on the DSO-SO merge classification and the contractual obligation for adjusting that wage. So that's happening next week, so I'll be able to tell you more about how a virtual meeting works after that. And then the week following that becomes our boundary arbitration. For Evergy members, we got the improved, if you will, bylaws and letters sent off to the international vice presidents to get approved through the international president. There was no dramatic change to the bylaws from what you voted on. A lot of the concern was when you have 5 local unions and the numbers of individual union members inside those locals, then can the big local, 304, overrule the small locals? And so just trying to make sure everybody has a voice in that. So argued that through us and an international, and we stuck with the simple majority for a vote. So the business managers all cast the vote from their units, from their locals, as to how they wanted the contract vote to go, and that's how the system council will tabulate the votes. Other than that, there was just some minor changes on more definitions. We're not going to have per capita, for example, so we don't need to have a treasurer, so we combined the secretary-treasurer position. The only reason you would still have a treasurer would be that we agreed that would split whatever costs we have equally amongst all of the local unions. So if we're doing a grievance or anything like that, then it would be split evenly, so the treasurer would be in charge of just making sure that those numbers are given out. The home local would still pay the bill, and just the other locals pitch in. So the last thing I got is a reminder that Gator has left. If you send him an email, I think the notification you get back says something to the effect of, "Come on, guys, Gator doesn't work here anymore." He actually is still employed, just taking some time off as an assistant. And as a business manager, you don't get much time away from here because of our schedules. So he's able to kind of disengage for a little bit. I just had him in here today looking at some grievances that he was involved in early on, and so getting his opinion as we move him forward. So he's not gone from 304, but Jason Anacone has taken his place and does have his phone number. So you can still contact Gator still contact Jason through Gator's old number. So dial that Gator number, and you'll get Jason, and he'll be able to take care of whatever issue you've got going on. So Local 304, if I don't talk to you, I'm sure I will, but if I don't, have a safe and happy holidays, and keep doing what you're doing and moving this labor movement forward. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.